We have invited the candidates currently running to represent District 3, and from Colusa County, we have Supervisor Kim Vann. Welcome to you.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
So happy to be here.
And we also have current Congressman for District 10, John Garamendi. Good morning.
Good to be with you. Thank you.
What we would like to do is we want to limit the answers to about 30 seconds, and we want to first give you each about a 30-second opportunity for a statement. So, Kim, if you'd like to go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and thank you so much for having us here this morning. You know, I'm the mother of this wonderful 9-year-old son, and when this new congressional seat came open, I decided that I just could not sit by and watch what was happening to this country and the future that could possibly be changed for my son, one of the greatest countries in the world, and not leave him the best opportunities that we could leave for him. So I decided to jump into this race for him and for everyone in the 3rd Congressional District.
Congressman?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. Ms. Vann, it's a pleasure to be with you today. Looking forward to this. I love the work. I love public policy. It's been my life's work. Tough issues dealing with in California and Washington, D.C., the most profound and important questions facing this nation and world. And to be able to deal with them is critically important. Also important is that we get jobs back in America. And so my Make It in America agenda is really having an impact. We're going to rebuild the American manufacturing sector. We can do it. We can do it with smart public policy. We can do it with a lot of hard work, and we're going to talk about those things during this debate.
All right. Well, the first thing we want to talk about, commercials.
Yes, first your ad, Congressman. We all believe fact-checking is an important part of the political process.
Sure it is.
Now, one recent ad came to light about a $4,000 chair that Ms. Vann was accused of buying. In the end, it turned out that it wasn't the case.
Well, there was a chair, but the ad was really about veterans. It's about the work that I've done for many, many years, helping veterans. When I was Lieutenant Governor in the legislature here, as Insurance Commissioner, and now back in Congress, constantly trying to make sure that our veterans are properly cared for. These are the men and women that have sacrificed their life for this country, for the freedoms that we enjoy. And we have an obligation to make certain that we are providing whatever those veterans need. And my long history in public policy has been consistent. We're going to get everything the veterans need. Education, and in fact, I'm carrying 2 pieces of legislation now. One about how veterans can get jobs, making it more simple for them and making it possible for them to go back to their jobs that they lost when they went to the military. And the other one deals with what veterans are now facing with predatory loans. We're going to make certain that the predatory lenders that are going after veterans are punished, they're captured, and we stop that.
Now, the ad wasn't specifically about a chair, but it mentioned the chair and had misleading information on that. Do you think that touches on credibility at all when it's
certainly it touches on the facts that the information we received from the county was incorrect. It was there in the county documents. It was incorrect. Fine, we move on. But this is really about veterans. It's also about the rest of the story, about how we must care for the veterans.
Okay,
that's what it's all about.
Talk about a commercial that you've just begun to run, and in it, and I wrote down the quote so I get it right. He, meaning Congressman Garamendi, thinks higher taxes and more regulations are a good idea. We tried that, and it didn't work. What regulations is he talking about, and when did this not work?
Well, the failed stimulus has not worked, and the new regulatory policies with the bills like Made in America will not work. Continuing to add more burden to businesses is not going to encourage them to stay in this country and do what we need them to do as far as creating jobs.
But what burdens are they adding? This is the part, because we've heard this charge a lot, and I don't know what regulations have been added. I know that it's true that one side is asking for higher taxes, but what regulations are being added?
Well, this year, the last 2 years alone in the administration, 106 new regulations were added to businesses across the board that cost over $68 billion. So from every department, from every administration, and mandating businesses to buy things from other businesses is also another regulation. It continues to add to the cost of doing business in this country, and that's why folks are leaving the country and doing business elsewhere. It's strangling our small and medium-sized businesses. We've got to get control of unwieldy regulations. And I want to address the chair ad for a minute. That was directly an attack on me, and it was a lie, and the congressman knows it. A county budget is in a form of a state-mandated budget. And if you can't read a county budget, I'm concerned that you can't read a federal budget.
Okay, if that was an attack on her, was her ad an attack on you?
Let's move back to some really important issues here. My Make It in America legislation basically says that your tax money, my tax money, what we pay at the pump, that money must be spent on American-made equipment. And it really works right here in Sacramento. Siemens, major manufacturer here in Sacramento, is building locomotives for Amtrak that come from our gasoline tax money, and it basically, in the stimulus bill, now this is a stimulus bill, said that these locomotives must be 100% American made. So Siemens, a German company, established a manufacturing plant right here in Sacramento. 250 people are working, making 100% American-made locomotives.
Are you against that kind of a regulation?
No, I think we should be buying as much as we can that's American-made. But
this is not a regulation. This is actually what I'm proposing as a law.
Okay.
But, so the law would be a regulation that would force a business to do something.
But you wouldn't be against that?
I would not be against buying American-made products, but this is a wound. We have a wound that businesses do not want to make these products in America or can't afford to. And we just keep putting Band-Aids and Band-Aids on this wound. We have to address the core problem.
I want to move on to taxes, because she's saying you want higher taxes. We assume that you're in line with President Obama to raise the tax on those making more than $250,000. We assume you're in line with Mitt Romney not to do just that. Are you going to sign a Grover Norquist pledge that you won't be in favor of any new taxes?
No, and I haven't signed it either. I think that's ridiculous. To tie your hands to something that you don't know what is or isn't going to happen tomorrow, we can't do that. That's not a way of running good government. We have to be able to reach across the aisles at times and come to a bipartisan decision. Look, when the president 2 years ago came to a bipartisan decision with Congress, Garamendi criticized the president for coming to a bipartisan agreement with the Congress on extending unemployment benefits and keeping the tax cuts in place. So we have someone who's more liberal than the president who criticizes the president for coming to a bipartisan decision with Congress.
Let's understand that was all about increasing the deficit. We need to get the deficit under control. In order to do that, we need to do two things. We need to keep our expenses down, and we need to have a decent tax policy where we raise it on those that can afford it, not on the middle class, not on the working men and women, but on those on the super wealthy. Let's be very, very clear about what the Republicans in Congress have been proposing, and that is to push the burden onto the middle class. Give the tax cuts to the super wealthy and push the burden back to the middle class. That's not how you're going to build this economy or have a fair tax system.
Okay, Congressman John Garamendi and Supervisor Kim Vann, we are out of time for this one, but there will be a round two coming up, so hopefully you both will stick around.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're continuing our congressional debate. We want to welcome the candidates, Kim Vann, she's a Colusa County Supervisor, and current Congressman John Garamendi. Thank you both. Good to be with you.
And we start part two now with a comment or question from one of our Facebook viewers.
Sure.
This is from Marcos. He says, straight out, quote, "Don't repeal Obamacare." So what is your stance, Kim, on the Affordable Health Care Act?
Well, the premise of any health care act should be patients first. The relationship between patients and doctor should be #1 priority. And unfortunately, this healthcare act was politics first. So we have to go back to a place where we're putting that relationship first, where we value the outcome of our health over an independent board that's making decisions for you and I outside of our doctor-patient.
Would you repeal everything, including pre-existing conditions, being able to carry your children on a parent's policy up to the age of 25?
I think there are a number of things we could carry over
so
and
would
continue.
Keep some of it?
Some of it, absolutely.
Specifically?
But the carryover of the health care for children in college and for older children, and the benefits that extend to our children and to our loved ones.
Does it need to be tweaked a little bit, or?
Well, we need to understand exactly what is here. My good friend is just plain wrong. The system that was set up in the Affordable Health Care Act does not intervene at all between a patient and doctor. In fact, it improves that situation for some 40 million Americans that do not have a relationship at all. They don't have insurance at all. They will have insurance under this program. What is set up in this is exactly an extension of the existing American healthcare system. But it does that in a way that provides additional coverage for individuals that are not covered. Doesn't break the relationships at all. Those people that are on Medicare actually will be able to have Medicare extended by some 7 years solvency, and a significant amount of fraud was taken out of Medicare. Unnecessary money that was given to the insurance companies to provide services that were were additional bonuses for insurance companies. That was moved. That money was plowed back into benefits for seniors, drug benefits, closing the drug loophole, the donut hole. All of these things occurred. There's been so much misrepresentation of what the Affordable Health Care Act
One of
is.
the issues involved in that is abortion, and with Congressman Aiken from Missouri in his race, and I see you shaking your head right now, you want to distance yourself from his remarks at all, or do you see if Republicans take over the Senate, and they already have control of the House and the White House, do you see a movement towards this? What can you tell women out there who are wondering about their rights should you be elected?
Well, I don't think Congressman Aiken represents all of us by any means, and he sure doesn't represent me.
But he's in alliance with Vice Presidential nominee Paul Ryan.
He's in alliance with some of his positions, but not all of them. But you know, I have Aiken's comments were unnecessary and just flat out wrong. And women should not be worried that their rights are going to be taken away, especially under my leadership. And I have always said that. Again, it's a patient-doctor relationship. I don't get to make those decisions for patients. Those need to be made between you and your doctor. And this does put another layer in between that. An independent board making decisions based on finances instead of need or my individual health care, you know, constitution is not the best way to go. Let me finish, Congressman. That is not the best way to go. We are foolish to think that this is going to work out in a manner that an appointed bureaucracy making decisions for me is going to be the best decision made for my health care.
Congressman, weigh in.
I'm sorry, that just isn't the case. That's not in the law. That's not in the law at all. In fact, before this law went into effect, it was the insurance companies that were making the decisions about whether care would be given or not. And I was the insurance commissioner for 8 years in California. I fought those health insurance companies every single day for 8 years. And I know that they were making the decisions. The doctor couldn't make the decision. He had to go refer to somebody on the end of the phone. And people understand that. That was basically severed by the Affordable Health Care Act because the Patient's Bill of Rights was put in place. No longer are insurance companies able under the Affordable Health Care Act to deny coverage, to deny benefits, and to discriminate against women. And in fact, the House Republicans in the Ryan-Romney budget significantly limited the ability of women to make choices about their own life, about how they were going to conduct their decisions. That wasn't made by an insurance company. That was a decision made by the House Republicans. All but 4 Republicans voted to remove the ability of women to get contraceptives.
You would distance yourself from that provision?
I would never, ever take that position.
Okay, we got another social media
from,
question.
Abortion to same-sex marriage. Now, this comes from one of our Facebook friends again. This is Michelle asking, what are the candidates' position on marriage equality? We'll go with you first, Kim.
Well, marriage is a contract, and I value the institution of marriage. I'm not opposed to, private unions or to people making decisions for themselves. Look, I'm a person who truly believes that we need to be responsible for our actions and responsible for what we do and making decisions for ourselves.
Do you support same-sex marriage?
If that's what someone chooses for them, that's what they're
So you wouldn't vote against it?
No.
Okay. Okay, Congressman?
Well, the question is, would you vote to repeal DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act? Would you vote to repeal DOMA?
Not at this stage.
Okay, then you do not support same-sex marriage, because that is a federal law that prohibits same-sex marriage between the states.
Well, it's a states' rights issue, Congressman. I mean, I'm not going to step all over individual states' rights on this issue.
Then you can't have it both ways.
Well, it is a states' right.
You either support or you don't support. You can't have it both ways.
You're telling me I can't support something and still be in a position of states' rights?
What does a viewer at home take from you? Will you be in favor of same-sex marriage?
It's a states' rights issue. That decision needs to be made at the states' rights.
But what's your personal stance?
And my personal stance would be, yes, that's fine, but it's a states' rights issue. Okay. It's not an issue for the federal government to tell the state.
Again, we wanted you to each ask each other a question.
Right.
Go ahead, if you've got a question for the Congressman.
Well, Congressman, I would like to ask you if you would agree to actually be honest in your commercials in the upcoming 59 days. Because we all know that a county budget is very easy to read. You open it up, it says Board of Supervisors. It took Channel 10 News 7 minutes to get to the bottom. I don't know if you pulled it off the air or not.
Of course we pulled it off the air, and we're reworking it. In fact, it was your document from your county that said there was a $4,000 chair right next to your name. Let's not go there.
It doesn't say it. That's a flat-out lie. Let's get the budget document out. It says Board of Supervisors, then it says chairs, plural, ... $4,000. My name is nowhere in that document, and that's another lie. Look, you're not going to be accountable for what you say. and you haven't been for the 37 years you've been in office, and it's time for a change.
Let's let him respond. Congressman, please.
Well, charges are easily made, particularly in the heat of a campaign. But the reality is that there are fundamental issues that we have to deal with. The fundamental issue of a chair is not an issue.
Why would you bring it up?
The issue here has to do with veterans. Ms. Vann, you denied the veterans in your community an opportunity to build and to repair their facility. That's what was in the ad. And you also voted for a significant 17% increase in your own salary. At the same time, or shortly before or after, you turned down the veterans. But this is really about how we're going to act in Congress.
Well, let's ask her about the veterans. How do you respond to that?
Well, it was a building that was red tagged and falling down on top of people, and we had 2 other places for them to meet. We did not deny the veterans anything.
You didn't give them the $75,000 that they requested.
It was going to take much more than $75,000, and we would have had to construct the whole thing.
Did you give them any money at all?
We did. We actually put $1.2 million into a new center in Williams, which is only about 12, 14 miles away from where that one is. And we have transit to make sure that people can get there. It's going to be a beautiful, new, safe center. And how dare you question my support of veterans? My father was in the jungle in Vietnam fighting while you were in the Peace Corps.
Yes, there are many ways to serve this country. Many, many ways to serve
Let's, if we can bring this full circle here. Congressman, why are you better to represent District 3?
This is my district that I've lived in for the last 35 years. We've lived in this district. I'm a rancher, I'm a farmer. I also have extraordinary experience dealing with a multitude of issues that are every day before the House of Representatives, before the Congress, profoundly important issues that affect America. Financial issues, healthcare issues, insurance issues, issues about the military. I sit on the House Armed Services Committee. We have 2 major Air Force bases in this district. We have Travis and we have Beale Air Force Base. I'm on the committee that can keep those fundamentally important missions in place, not only for the employment in this area, but rather, more importantly, for the security of this nation. At Travis, the air mobility, the tankers, the C-5As, moving men and materials, both for war and for peace and for humanitarian work. And in Beale, even today, watching what's going on in the Middle East. They're deploying those airplanes, unmanned aircraft in the Middle East today, the drones, so that they are watching what's happening there. These are critically important things, and I'm in a position, and have been for the last 2 years, of using my experience over these years to be able to assist in the national defense, in the issues of the environment and water issues in this area, profoundly important issues on water.
Kim,
we have a peripheral canal issue.
Why would you be able better to represent this district?
Well, I understand what people in this district are going through. I was born and raised here. My family's been in this district for 5 or 6 generations, depending on what side you're looking at on our family. I understand the struggles that my neighbors and my friends and my family are going through. I'm going through the same struggles. I'm one of them. So I will be able to take with me to Washington the same attitude that I've had on the Board of Supervisors, being able to reach bipartisan agreements and always taking into consideration when I vote how it affects the people in the 3rd Congressional District.
Congressman, you brought up an issue we don't have time for, but we would love to maybe get you back, or we'll have one of our reporters ask you about the water issue, the peripheral tunnel, as they're labeling it right now.
I'd be delighted.
Kim,
thank you so much.
Congressman, maybe we can talk about the money that she's received from the Southern Water Agency.
We'll let you both do your
and the money you've received from Hollywood.